to what probably is our last module of the semester, module number 5, and I chose to learn Rust. This is McKenna Palmer, in case you still don't know who I am after all these videos, and I am part of applied programming class here up at BYUI. And once again, I decided to learn Rust for my module 5. It is a language for embedded and application development. It's similar to C or C++. And since I have a lot of knowledge about C++ and C#, I thought it would be a great language to add to my skills, especially since I'm trying to get an internship right now. So the unique requirements and challenges for Rust was to do variables, expressions, conditionals, loops, and functions. Any stretch challenges, which I sort of did if you think about panicking. There's something called macros in Rust, and one of the macros is called panic. It basically, when you run until you hit the panic in your code, it's like, for example, you put in the wrong operator, and so you call panic, and it ends up sending you a message or a slice of your code, and it says, oh no, this is wrong. That could be considered slicing, but I don't think I can count as one. But for right now, I'm just going to show you a simple calculator I made using Rust, and maybe demonstrate the really cool test script they had me build when I was learning how to make Rust too. So there is this cool site called freeCodeCamp where you can learn Rust, and they tell you how to do everything. They also have this cool link to Replit. I'm not quite sure how to say that right, so I probably said it wrong, but it downloads this format from their GitHub, and it teaches you how to make Rust projects, Rust variables. It just teaches you everything about Rust. So that was quite fun. But if you don't want to do that and you just want to read or watch a video, they have those links here too. I thought it was fun to read, mostly because I'm a very visual learner. And I learned so much about Rust. Like, for example, instead of using camel case like we usually do in most languages, it uses something called snake case. And with constants and statistics, it uses something called screaming snake case, which is hilarious. I wonder about programmers and names sometimes. They also use Pascal case for types, traits, and enums. I didn't really focus too much on these, just enough to do what I needed to do. I mostly focused on variables, functions, files, constants, and statistics. And that was lots of fun. So functions in Rust use fn. You don't type out function or anything like that. It's just very simple keyword. Return was also very interesting. You could do return this, or you could just leave off the semicolon and it instantly knows it's supposed to return it. I tried both ways, and honestly, I think I like the return with the semicolon better because you know for sure it's happening, and it's not hard to mess that up. I messed up the other one multiple times. Slices and strings, or strings and slices, since I said that backwards. Basically, strings, there is str string types, and there's a string struct. I was originally very confused because str just meant string in my mind. Either that or you spelled out string, and I thought they were basically the same thing. But apparently there's a very big distinction. Like, str is a string literal, and string is an instance. Kind of interesting to know. And then there is a lot more cool things we could discuss with Rust, because it is quite a bit different than most languages, even though it's still pretty similar to C++. When I learned Kotlin, there was only a few things that were different and wasn't too hard to pick up. This one took quite a bit more effort. Anyway, enough about this. Let's show you my program. As you can see, it's just a simple calculator anymore, and I probably would have died. As you can see, there was a lot to do to get it to work. So we have our main function like we usually have. We have an output function. This is the formatting or display of how it should output the numbers and your answer. That wasn't too hard. As you can see, once again, we have another macro here. You can kind of tell they're macros because they nearly always end in this exclamation mark, which makes it easier. Though each macro has its own function. Basically, macros are pieces of code that write other code in a way, is I think how it was described. But anyway, so there's a print-in macro, there's a format macro, and there's a panic macro. I don't think we use any other macros in the simple calculator, but as you can see here, in our output function, we used a format macro. We just want to see first number, operator, second number equals result. This sort of normal thing you usually see. But anyway, that's all good. We have a second function after our main called operate. This is the harder one. This is the one that does the math. And this is the one that had the most difficulty accepting arguments and passing them back. I'm pretty sure there is still some bugs to work out, but I haven't tested it like to the extreme to try to break it yet. I've just mostly been happy that it's working. But anyway, as you can see here, we originally had an else if switch case sort of thing going on, but then it was talking about how we could use this match operator, and so I thought I would try it, and it actually was really nice and cut down on a bit of code and made it look cleaner. So if the operator's plus and it matches this, then you match it to this, and so on and so forth. Kind of cool thing is you could also add more cases, like if it matched at big X, at little x, or this star, then it would do this line of code. Kind of cool too. I mean, you could do that with a normal switch case. It just seemed really cool at the time. But anyway, and as you can see, here's the panic macro I was talking about earlier. Basically, it's like a debugging try-catch statement, sort of. It's like, if none of them match, hence the underscore meaning any other character that's not one of these, then panic, freak out, you have a bug, sort of thing. Kind of like the name. And then that is pretty much all you really need to know. In our main function, we just, gather the arguments, store the arguments. In this case, parsing a lot of the arguments. As you can see, there is this args, nth, and unwrap, and a bunch of other stuff. Basically, to gather arguments, you had to gather them and then unwrap them so you could figure out what kind of argument they are, what type, all that, and make sure they fit where you're storing them. That is a lot more complicated and we don't quite have enough time to explain it, so just know all this helps us parse or translate what the user is giving us. And we're just storing it, and then after running it through operate and output, we are receiving all that information back and printing it out to the console. Once again, it's just a simple calculator, only can do plus, minus, divide, and times. In this case, we might only have time to show you like the first couple, but just note pretty much all that works because it has this cool thing. When I was learning, they had us set up tests, like a miniature test script inside our main script. And so it tests to make sure all of this is working. Otherwise, if not, it will send you back a message. So it's like validating you. Kind of nice. It was kind of interesting how they've set it up. But anyway, let's just show you how it works. So let's see. I think, already got some stored from when I was testing earlier. Basically, you call it. In this case, we're using cargo to call our script. Cargo run. Then we got to initialize the path. Bin calculator. See, calculator calls the main files in the calculator. And then we need to give it arguments. So we will give it 1 plus 2. And we should get 3. Yay! Isn't that nice? 1 plus 2 equals 3. Let's try something slightly harder. 1 minus 4 equals negative 3. Or, let's see, cargo run dash dash bin calculator. See you later, calculator. Alright, let's see, something exciting. -10 plus 10. Ooh, and we got a 0. Honestly, every time I do something that's supposed to get a 0, I kind of like panic and expect it to, you know, say undefined. Just because, you know, sometimes 0 can be really scary when you're using it in math. But regardless, it looks like our simple calculator is running. So nice. All in all, this is Rust. So I showed you functions, I showed you variables, I showed you if-else switch case, and the loop thing is actually this thing right here. It's the nth function. It kind of iterates through the argument, but I'm not quite sure how to explain that. But generally, if you want to do a normal loop in here, you could probably set up like you usually do in C++ with just a couple differences. So all in all, is that all the unique requirements? Yes, we have our conditionals. Yes, yes, yes. So yeah, that is our Rust thing. I still don't think I could claim stretch challenges, but at least I hit all the unique requirements. So thank you for watching this video, and as you know, I probably rambled on, so hopefully you can understand everything I said. But anyway, I may or might not see you later with more projects, probably from different classes though. Bye!